What is up YouTube? It's Jacob here from the Rush Dimension, and today I'll be bringing you my Mermail deck profile. So let me just throw these to the side and then we can get straight into it. So for the Mermail lineup, I still play traditional 3 Abyss Teus, the best superior extender that you can find in the deck. Always want to see this in your opening hand, being able to discard 1 water type monster and special summon itself to the field, and then you can add 1 level 4 lower Mermail monster from your deck to your hand, and triggering all your Atlanteans at the same time. The best card in my opinion in this deck. And then I just played the 1 Abyss Megalo. This is just your OTK button boss monster within the deck, searches a few of your Abyss spells and traps, but in this world there is only the 1 that we will be searching, which we will get to when we cover the spells. And then just the 1 Abyss Pike and 1 Abyss Gun. So Abyss Pike will essentially search the Abyss Gun. If it's already in your hand, you will search Gun off the Abyss Teus. Gun special summons a Mermail monster from the graveyard when discarded for any type of triggering, and Abyss Pike will add any level 3 water monster from deck to hand, and this deck actually has quite a few other than the Abyss Gun for if you do draw into this, or whichever situation you find yourself in, you can use this to add the card that will get you out of certain situations. So let's just move this one up. Going into the Atlanteans, we have, same as always, as every other profile, nevertheless, 3 Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince. This card is your 1 card starter. You can use this to get yourself out of situations as well, using it to mill Atlantean Dragoons to add cards, or milling heavy infantry to pop cards, even marksmen to pop set cards. And then for the rest of the Atlanteans, there is Dragoon, always 3, nevertheless. This card is not once per turn. If you manage to shuffle them back in the deck, you can keep using them every time they go to the graveyard. They trigger off things like the Bahamut Shark. They trigger off Abyss Dweller, which is pretty awesome because they get detached for the activation of the water monster. And then I opted to play the 2 infantry over 3 and slid in the 1 marksman just for utility purposes. If you do find something face down on the field that you don't like, then you can attempt to get rid of it with this card, which is pretty awesome. And then going into the deep sea part of the deck, obviously 3 Deep Sea Diva. This thing special summons any level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from your deck, including its own archetype and including the Atlanteans. So you can summon Prince of this card, then activate Prince's effect, which is pretty awesome. And then for the rest of the Deep Sea support, I play 3 Minstrel. This card is broken AF, being able to check out your opponent's hand, ripping an important card or a lesser important card, and then ripping 2 more with Mooling Glacier is pretty awesome. Then grabbing the knowledge from their hand and then being able to set up your board accordingly is extremely broken, especially in a format where non-disclosed cards, the knowledge is pretty vital, being able to set up boards that your opponent cannot play through and then manage your extra deck accordingly. And then just the 1 Deep Sea Artisan, just to use that as synchro material. It also helps you special summon from grave, which is pretty good. Just the 1 of, you don't need any more of this. If you draw into it, it's fine. You can discard it to the graveyard because since it is water, most of the deck is water. So everything in this deck is not considered a brick if you draw into it, because you can still discard it for any of the extenders in the deck. And then I play the very small Frog Engine, just the basics, just to be able to hard make your Totally Awesome if you need. And if you've already made the Totally Awesome of Bahamut Shark, I don't play the second Toad. I think it's a bit too excessive. I do have a bit more of a utility in the extra deck, but you can use this for additional synchro plays or additional fodder for linking, or just having extra material on board to do extra damage or any extra things that you need done to be able to put more pressure onto the opponent. And just some lighter extenders. I added in 2 of the Shatana. A free special summon if you control no monsters. It's just a random extender. Being level 4 is pretty good, so you can normal summon your Dragoon, overlay for Bahamut Shark, detached Dragoon, special summon the Frog, protected you from all hand traps, Nibiru, everything else, and then trigger the Dragoon Engrave and adding more cards to your hand so that you can extend your plays further. And then for just additional Sea Serpent extenders, we have the 1 Lapis Dragon. This is the tuna of choice that we will use to go to Alka Fibrax with. just the Moulin Glacier to rip 2 more cards from your opponent's hand if you're playing the hand loop version. This being able to grab extra cards from your opponent's hand, knowing what's in the hand after you've used Minstrel, is pretty awesome. And then just the one target that you summon off Alka-Fibrax, you can summon the Fishborg. This thing is able to float back since the whole deck is mostly water. It's almost a free special summon. The special summon from grave is not negated because it's a summoning condition, so that you can still summon this card from the grave when it's been summoned from Alka-Fibrax. And there are a few other tuners that you can summon from the deck as well, like Deep Sea Diva and Minstrel, both tuners, depending on which cards you'd like to go to for your synchro play. And then just for hand traps, I play only 3 Ash Blossom. It's the only 3 I could fit in. You can drop this for more extensions and fit this into the side if you'd like. This is mostly just a rogue type of deck. I don't play this competitively, but it's an extremely fun deck in my opinion, and since I got the deck I really enjoyed playing it, and 3 Ash Blossoms I feel just a bit more comfortable having this in the main deck. And then going straight into the spells, we play the 2 Deep Sea Arias for a bit more draw power and 2 Moray of Greed. This essentially helps unbrick your hand and helps you draw into more cards that you'd rather like to see and putting back cards that you'd rather be searching. I only stuck to 2 Deep Sea Aria because sometimes your hand could be awkward where you are not able to get a Water Engrave for the banish effect to be able to search a Sea Serpent, but this is pretty awesome that you can actually search your Dragoon, and that's the only reason why I played this at 2. And you can throw in a upstart if you need more draw power in the deck. And just for the last 2 spell cards, I played the 1 for 1, just special summoning the Atlantean Prince from deck, and just the 1 Scaled Mizuchi for the OTK, as well as playing around Dark Ruler no more. This card can also play around Super Poly if it comes back within the next few formats. This will be a pretty awesome card because it responds to the resolution of the card, not the activation. So that's pretty awesome to keep in mind. Then going into the extra deck, I still prefer playing the 1 Abyss Glacier over any other card that is there. Pretty easy to make under all the restrictions, being a water and a Sea Serpent, and then the cost needed to summon is pretty easy because the whole deck is pretty much anything that is listed on this card. This giving the bonus attack and defense to cards that it points to, any cards that it points to, and having the effect to search Abyss if you haven't seen it in your opening hand in your opponent's turn is pretty cool. And anything that you discard, if it also triggers the water monsters in grave. So having this set up on the field, pitching something like the infantry or marksman and having that trigger in a separate chain after this card resolve is also pretty awesome. And the card, the effect that little people know about is as long as you have water monsters in grave, you can send any water monster from deck to grave and still special summon that water monster as well. Next we have Alka-Fibrax. Not much needed to say here. I enjoy playing this card in this deck. It's easy link climbing, it's water as well, so it plays under the summoning conditions of the Fishborg Launcher, which is pretty awesome. Summoning the Fishborg Launcher and then linking into whatever you need. It's pretty awesome. I play the 1 Coral Anemone. You can use this to summon your prince from grave if you haven't used the effect yet. And being locked underwater is not as bad as you think. Most of the extra deck is water as well as the main deck. And being able to summon one of your frogs back from the graveyard, triggering the effect to mill a frog, and then hard making your toad that way, it comes up a lot more and pretty good in my opinion. And then just the 1 Appaloosa, just for extra board building purposes. You make this with your Alka-Fibrax and the Fishborg Launcher, and then floating back the Fishborg Launcher to go into synchro plays after that. So you'll have a 3 material Appaloosa, which is your monster negate, which is still pretty good in this format, which is better in this format than most of the previous formats. And then going for the synchros, I have the 1 Tatsunoko paired with White Aura Monticeros for the Quasio combo. Pretty awesome combo. You can check out the combo on his page where he explains a lot more how the combo works, how he figured it out. I enjoy using this combo. People don't expect this combo. Tatsunoko being able to synchro with cards from your hand, White Aura summoning back the Abyss Pike triggering straight after that, and then you having extra fodder on board, being able to do anything before any restrictions are placed onto the field. The one Coral Dragon helps you get out of sticky situations. You can hard make this card with just your Atlantean Prince. Searching off the Dragoon, you search the Lapis Dragon, special summon Lapis Dragon, make this card, send 2 cards from hand to grave, pop a card on the field. Pretty awesome. And if this card leaves the field, you can draw a card for free. It's also a tuner which helps you get into Alka Firebrax plays or any higher synchros that you prefer to go to. Then also the one Prima Donna, very necessary card in this deck. Shuffles back 1 banished card that your opponent has, and then special summons a water monster from deck, which is pretty broken. You can summon anything from deck, and then the synchro card that use this card as a material cannot be targeted with monster effects, which a lot of people forget about, and which is pretty awesome when, especially if you make something like the Emancipated Dragite, which is your spell and trap negate, or your borrow load, making it slightly more difficult to get off the field, which is pretty awesome. And then just the one Ravenous Crocker Dragon, the same principle as the Abyss Glacier, being able to toss cards as a quick effect and to pop cards on the field, and this helps you draw into some of your extensions as well. And if you have enough cards in hand, this can actually be your OTK button, which is pretty awesome. And then just the totally awesome. Speaking of awesome, I just run the one. I only have one. One has always been enough for me. For Armored Shark, just be able to get to the totally awesome a bit easier, and as well as triggering your Dragoons when it's detached as material. And then I also have the Abyss Dweller for the same purpose. It's water. All of them are water. Abyss Dweller still being an awesome card, being able to lock people out of their graveyards, and again triggering the Dragoons once it's been detached is pretty awesome. And Abyss Chaos, just to round things off. This could honestly be, this is a flex spot. I prefer playing this because it's in archetype. I enjoy the card, I enjoy the skill drain, and having a walking skill drain is very good in this format as an additional negate as well. This can honestly be a Boral Sword if you do not have this card or prefer having a better OTK presence. Then you can replace this card with any OTK card, access code, anything that you prefer playing over this card. And then going into the side deck is pretty basic. I chose to play the 3 Gamma Seals to be able to remove, in spot removal, any monster that causes you problems. It's a water monster that you can mill off Abyss Glacier and special summon in defense mode if you need the high defense to stop you from dying in that turn. And you can, since it's water, you can pitch it off any of the cards that require water to be pitched, which is pretty awesome. And then we've got Lanciers for the decks that banish a lot. You don't banish at all actually, so this doesn't nerf you in any way, shape or form. So this is just there to stop your mostly the rogue matchups that need banishes to happen. You can use this to stop any of those type of decks. More of your graveyard reliant decks, I prefer running this over DD Crow because this has a slightly more versatility in the side deck. And if I could main this, I would, especially for this format, but this is not a very competitive deck in this format. I prefer you playing this deck at a rogue type tournament, and this is actually very good. And then I chose the Twin Twisters over Cosmics, but this could be Cosmic Cyclones, any other back row removal. I just wanted to have something to respond to back row decks if it does come up, or any deck that actually sets anything in the back row, so that you have the opportunity to clear something. The discard mostly comes up when you've opened this with your Deep Sea Aria, so that you can have a water engrave to banish and search your Deep Sea Diva or whichever card you'd prefer to start with, and then you can start building your board from there. And then just as a tech card, I chose to play 3 Forbidden Chalice. The reason why I play this card is because this deck also dies to Dweller, which is quite ironic, as Dweller is one of the easiest card to make in this deck, but this deck also dies to Dweller because most of the monster effects triggers engrave, and if you can't get something on board to be able to swing over the Dweller, then you kind of dead within the next few turns. So I just chose this because this over Imperm, actually this could be Imperms as well. I just chose this over Imperm because you can still set it and trigger the effect as well. It just does not have the restriction like Imperm to not have cards on the field to be able to trigger. So I just went with this over Imperm in my opinion, but this can as well be anything that you prefer. I just felt like the deck needed some way to out something that stops you from using your graveyard, and this was just the best card in my opinion to use. that is it for today, guys. Please like and subscribe. Please comment any changes that you'd like to make to the deck. You feel free to check out Quasio, Winter Kills. They have a lot more in-depth discussions about the deck. I used the information that I got gathered from all their videos to build and play Mermails the way I understand it, and I think you'd enjoy their videos as well. Please hit the notification bell and let me know what you guys think.